Hi friends, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm creating these two super cute tropical cards that are I Missed You theme because I thought that was a great theme for this kind of climate. And I'm using the background pieces I created last week on Instagram. So if you haven't seen that, go check out my Instagram. Here are the really cute stamps I'm using from Crafter's Companion. I'm just going to take that stamp, put it on my stamp block, and ink it up with some amalgam ink. I'm also using this new green stamp cleaner from Picket Fence Stamps, and I like it a lot. It does clean really well. And it looks really hard and rough in the picture, but it's really soft. So I thought it turned out really good. So I thought I'd share that with you. Then I'm going to stamp down the image. I have it on one of the rocker blocks because I feel like for larger images when you're not using a stamp positioner that the rocker blocks work really well. For the smaller stamp images, I don't think it makes much of a difference, but for the larger ones it does. And all I'm doing is stamping out these three images. Then I'm taking my Jane Davenport pens and I'm coloring in those images with black. You wouldn't need to do this if you had some die cuts that die cut out similar images. I don't have any die cuts that are real tropical in theme, but I thought the papers that I were using were very tropically, but I did have these stamps, so I'm coloring them in, and then I'm going to scan them into my Scan and Cut DX. I sold my Cricut Maker and my Scan and Cut 2, and I bought a Scan and Cut DX. I thought that it would be a lot better for me in the type of crafting I do, and so far I've really enjoyed it. So I'm just sticking it down. One thing I will note is the Cricut mats are much better and easier to use than the Scan and Cut mats, but I really like the Scan and Cut DX in that I don't have to make really any settings. So I just deal with it, you know. What can you do? You just tape your stuff down. So then I am scanning it into my Brother Scan and Cut mat, or Scan and Cut DX. What this is going to do is read those images and create cut lines around the black outline. I went ahead and colored them in just to make it really easy for the Scan and Cut. I'm going ahead and saving them to my machine so I can cut these out as many times as I want. I can come back tomorrow and cut them out, or I can come back 3 months from now and cut them out. It's really easy that way. So first I'm going to cut 2 sets of the flower outline out from that purple color, and then I'm going to cut 2 large leaves and I think 5 small leaves from the green paper. I'm doing this in 2 separate sections just in case you don't have a Scan and Cut DX. The one thing that you have to note if you do have a Scan and Cut DX is if I was to do it all at the same time, it would think that the papers were the same size. So I'm doing, or same thickness. So I'm doing the pink one first because that's significantly thinner than the green. So that's why I did it in 2 different cuts, and the green even cut because the paper ended up being so thick with all the layers and the watercolor paper that it cut it out twice. But look how cute those turned out. It even cut out the inside little circles. You could do this by hand as well by just stamping on the back of the paper and cutting it out and fussy cutting it out with your scissors. Then there we go. There's the purple. It turned out really cute. I am saving those especially the green, because I use the green negative part as a stencil later. I don't think I'm going to keep it forever. I think it'll go in the trash here pretty soon, but I did keep it for the rest of the project so I could stamp it out. One thing I wanted to show you with the Scan and Cut DX that I really like is I'm stamping this image down with some Gina K amalgam ink, and it is on heavyweight or 110-pound Neenah cardstock with a layer of adhesive. So I put it through my Xyron machine, and so it has that layer of adhesive on the bottom with a carrier sheet to keep the adhesive sticky. One thing that I really wanted to note is that when you do something like this, then you can cut out that image. So with this Scan and Cut DX, you can half cut, which is technically made for vinyl, but I thought I might be able to do it in this way, and I was, and it worked out perfectly. I just hit the half cut option and did a test to make sure that I could peel up just the paper piece. Like, it cut a little triangle, I peeled up the little triangle, but the carrier sheet was left over and the adhesive went with the triangle, so it became a little triangle sticker. This way I can color that image and then peel it off the paper. It's hard because the other way you can do it is by cutting out the paper first and then coloring, which gets really hard around the edges and can be really rough on your markers. If you color and then cut, sometimes you go outside the lines and the machine will then cut around those edges. It's a lot harder for the computer to read when you've colored it, especially if you didn't color it perfectly. So here I am, I'm coloring this image. I kept the Copic coloring in. You can let me know if you want to see more Copic coloring or you want to see less Copic coloring. I don't think I'm super amazing at Copic coloring, but I enjoy doing it. So I personally really like the banana drinks, these banana tropical drinks. What are they? Pina coladas. I think they taste really good, but I really like bananas. So I wanted to do a yellow happy drink, but I thought that a green drink kind of went more with the card. So I don't know if there's some kind of limeade drink, but that's what I'm going with on this one. I really was ready to be off on a vacation. Last year in February, I went on a crafty cruise, and that was so much fun. I had a bunch of virgin pina coladas. I'm not against drinking alcohol, I just don't drink a ton of it. But I love pina coladas, so I'd get virgin pina coladas all the time, and it was so wonderful. And we have a cruise coming up in July, which I'm hoping we get to go on. With the whole coronavirus stuff, I don't know. And I'm not telling you at all how I'm coloring, so I apologize. But I was just really looking forward to a vacation, so that's kind of where this card came from. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I was in a vacation-y mood, and this is as close as I could get. So on each part, what I'm doing is going from the lightest color to the darkest color and then back to get a smooth blend. I'm following the lines on the stamped image because the stamped image a lot of times will give you kind of where the shading is. If it's not simply the outline, it'll give you some helpful hints as to where to put shading. So I'm just following that, nothing too exciting. The one thing I do try and do on the drink in the glass is have a ring of the lightest or the second lightest color around the edge, which I don't know why, but that's just kind of how a liquid looks in a glass. You just have the edge of lighter color. So helpful hint there. Also at the bottom, I put a little triangle of some of the lighter colors that are in the liquid down into the glass, because that's also something you'll see. If you're not sure what you're doing, just take a look online and you can get some examples of mixed drinks in glasses or whatever. Then I did the straw in cool grays, and I didn't worry about the straw with the liquid or the glass. I just colored right over it because I was going for a clear straw. So then I'm just pulling off the negative of this sheet to show you how cool this is and how perfect it worked, which is completely the reason why I got this machine, or one of the big reasons, is so I could do this. And it turned out perfectly. I'm definitely going to continue to do this on my stamped images, because I am not a big fan of that little area around images that they leave when you get the coordinating die cuts. I like to match the image exactly, and that is one thing you can get with the Scan and Cut DX that you can't really get when using when you're using the manual die cuts. Then I'm going to take some of these inks and I'm going to blend them onto this background piece. If you remember from my Instagram videos, I was using the Distress Oxide spray to create these backgrounds, and this was kind of an extra piece that I created when I sprayed through the stencil on another piece that I'm using as the background on the other card. So we're just blending in some color, because while I liked the background that this one had, it didn't feel finished to me. The little bit of red was cool, but not enough. So I'm just going through with some regular Distress ink so that the Distress Oxide still stays as the star of the show, and just ink blending on some color. I think it's Squeezed Lemonade, Twisted Citron, and Fossilized Amber. Then I sprayed on some water, let it sit for a second, and then sprayed on some more water. Just so you know, everything in this video is sped up twice the normal speed, except for the Copic coloring, which was sped up 4 times the normal speed. So I am in no way this fast at crafting. I would get a whole lot more done if I was. I'm just a slow, enjoy the process kind of crafter. Then I am stenciling in some extra leaves. Since I was only able to cut out 5 leaves, it wasn't a ton for both cards. So on this card, I didn't have any of the bigger leaves. I decided I could just stencil in the background, and that would make it feel fuller while still highlighting those leaves that I cut out from this really cool paper, and not having to create any new paper to cut leaves out from, because I was kind of ready to be done at this point. So this was a really easy hack for adding some volume. So I think this would be perfect in a lot of other situations when you're doing foliage or a bouquet or something and you haven't cut out enough die cuts. You can stencil some stuff on the background. It's kind of like in an actual bouquet where they add greenery. It's more of giving it fullness and volume. So then I moved to that green drink because I just didn't think it fit right in the middle, since I decided to do these easel cards, and I'm just cutting them out with some dies I have. They are Crafter's Companion dies, and there's an inside and an outside. So I did the inside with the cool background I created, and then here was just some alcohol inked backgrounds that I'd created a year or so ago. They're not overly pretty backgrounds. They're not bad. They're not stars of the show kind of backgrounds. So I thought this would be a perfect way to use them, because I only had 1 page of my green cardstock that would have really matched, and I was like, no, I just can't use this for both of them, so I'm not going to use them for either. And with the whole supply chain of the craft industry right now, I just didn't want to run out of that green paper. So I need to order some more, but I'm not going to get it for a long time. So I've had an order out since February 7th, and I was supposed to get it shipped here in a day or two, and it's not going to ship for like a month or two, I think, more, because of this whole coronavirus. Anyway, I'm gluing everything on top of each other except for the stamped flower, which I didn't even talk about, but I just stamped on top of that with some archival ink, some archival black ink. And then on one of them, I did go through with my Jane Davenport pens and go over the lines just to make them a little bit darker. But for that, I'm going to add some foam adhesive behind to give it a little bit of volume. One thing I did not do is my camera ran out and I did not film making the what are they called, sentiments. So you'll see at the end, I'll walk you through what sentiments I chose and talk you through that a little bit. But I mean, it's just adding sentiments. So I'm sure you've seen that on every other card. If you haven't, go check out some of my other videos and I'll show that. But also, I didn't show the backgrounds because I showed that on Instagram, and this is already a super long video. I've been trying to keep it between 10 and 15 minutes, and I think this one's 22. So I just wanted to cut out. I felt like it wasn't as important, so I didn't redo it. Here is where I'm showing you, I'm just going through and reinforcing those lines. They just didn't stamp very darkly. So I'm just going through and adding some of those lines back in with my pen. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Here I'm adding some more foam tape just to the back that has adhesive, so I don't even have to put glue or anything. I'm just going to stick it down, and it's going to turn out super cute. Oh, I just thought these were adorable. And they're just so happy and fun. So to create the easel card, what I'm doing is taking some really thick cardstock. This is the Nina 110 pound, and folding it in half hamburger style. And that's what we called it in elementary school, when you fold a paper in half so that the long edge folds in half and it looks more like a hamburger. And if you fold the short edge in half, then it looks more like a hot dog. So just trying to be helpful there. And I'm going to die cut that. And I'm putting that through my die cutting machine. And I put it through twice. I move it around a little bit because it's so thick that it takes a little bit to push through. And I'm going to take that and go to a scoring board. And this is just literally the first scoring board I picked up because it doesn't really matter that much. I'm just holding the edge and scoring through one side of that, approximately in half. So there you can see that's how it's going to turn out. I'm going to put glue on that top half of the fold and stick my card down. Then when it dries, it'll stand up. The one thing is it doesn't stay up. So I'm cutting this extra piece from that green that we already cut. But you could also have cut another flower from the purple piece and use that instead. Just stuck it with a little bit of foam tape in the middle. Just something that the top could rest against. So I'll show you how I glue that down in just a second. But on this one, the umbrella felt really flimsy to me. So I'm just gluing a tiny bit of paper behind that. And I'm taking my buddy bag on the back because there's still adhesive showing through on that. And I just I wanted to coat the adhesive so it was no longer sticky. And it's really simple from there. We just take that piece that I created. On the back, we're going to put a little bit of phone tape in the center. And then on the edges, we're just going to put some glue. So it'll be fat in the center and go down kind of like a ramp on both sides. That way, it just kind of flows into the card and isn't too protrusive. You might think this is kind of a little bit strange, but then when you put it all together, it looks really cool. It's perfect. You're pulling some more of that green.
Okay, friends. So my phone died and I didn't capture the very end, but all I did was stamped and embossed these two sentiments and glued them on, and then I stamped the other sentiment on the inside. So I think if I did this again, I would have stamped the inside ones on here, but it was kind of too late to do that by the time I figured out what sentiments I was going to use. I thought these define normal and I miss you were perfect. So for the current climate that we live in.
Here's some photos of the project of the two cards today. You can make an easel card in the same way that I did, just using any kind of shapes that you have, or regular rectangles work fine as well. Check me out on Instagram if you haven't done that. I have videos going up every day of the quarantine doing different techniques. Thanks so much for joining me. I had a really fun time creating the Instagram videos, a really fun time creating this video, and I hope you guys are staying safe and not going too crazy in your house. Here's some other videos you might be interested in watching, especially with all your extra time. Have a wonderful, safe, amazing, wonderful day. Bye.